Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Dessie Show. And this is a special episode right here. We're kicking off the new year. You know what time it is. And right now, I would love to say thank you and to introduce the man of the hour, Justin Martin.
I appreciate that, man.
How you been, my brother?
Man, I'm good, brother. I'm glad to be here. I
Yeah.
really am. It's about time.
Yeah.
It's about time.
It's really great to have this opportunity to interview you. You know, we've known each other for a number of years.
Yep.
A lot of times through passing,
Yep.
we're at different events, we're in different social circles.
Yeah.
I know the great work that you do. I respect you. I respect the great work that you do as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
No, man, really, it's an honor to be here. And obviously, the first time that I got invited, I accepted.
Okay.
So let just
Yeah, I
know,
got
you know
you.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
next time around, man, I'm here, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Look forward to a good convo.
Yeah, sounds good. So I want to really start at the beginning, man. People know you as being a public figure and doing a lot of community work, doing
Yeah.
great work, being an attorney. But talk about your upbringing. Where did it all start, and what's your background?
So that's an interesting question, man, and I think it goes in a bunch of different directions. I went to 14 different schools in 3 different states between kindergarten and graduating from high school.
Oh wow.
And so I was always the new kid.
Yeah.
I did develop or establish a lot of friendships or whatever, but I was
Yeah.
born in California
Mm-hmm.
and then never went to school there. Michigan, Wisconsin, Texas.
Yeah.
And most of my homeboys ended up being Texas cats,
Yeah.
and so I graduated from high school in Michigan. Well, let me back up. My mama was in an industry where you went where the work was.
Got it.
And so she was in the printing industry back when people actually, before the
Mm-hmm.
laptop and the computer screens, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. She was selling or printing. She worked on the side where they actually put the magazines together, brochures and pamphlets and all that kind of stuff, collateral
Yeah.
marketing material stuff. So we just went wherever the work was for her.
Yeah.
And then I was basically always a new kid.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was why, sort of my ability to just walk in a room and start talking to people, that
Yeah.
kind of thing it just
Yeah.
made it kind of easy because I got comfortable with that. So when I think it would have been 6th grade, 5th grade,
Mhm.
something like that. We moved to Texas and then
Yeah.
San Antonio, Floresville, really kind of crazy places because my uncle was in ranching.
Okay.
He did cattle, like for food,
Yeah.
beef and beef industry. So we'd stay with him, and I would be on a ranch during the summer, and then we'd go find some city to live in,
Yeah.
and so I did it all, man. And then obviously when I, at some point in time, I became an honorary Texan.
Yeah.
And it just became the crib. And so when we moved to Michigan, because I got in some trouble in high school,
Mm-hmm.
lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a while, and it's a lot of you could call it gang activity or whatever.
Right.
And so that was kind of new for me. And being an athlete, I ended up taking this cat's position on the basketball team. So the first game of the season in Milwaukee, we were playing the state champs. And the coach benched his power forward and put me in the game. I scored the first like six points of the game.
Yeah.
So of course the ladies was like, "Oh, this is cool,"
Right.
and I was like, "This is cool." But him and his gang members were
ain't
not.
like
They were
that.
not
Right.
like, "This is not cool."
Exactly.
And so that cascaded into a series of unfortunate events at the school, and eventually, and we could talk as deep as you want to talk about
Yeah.
that, man. But I actually got a really cool story about just pulling off, like pull off, man, because I went through some things up there where I was not running from situations, I was running towards them.
Right.
And there was a number of times where I was saved
Yeah.
through some power or some circumstance, something happened from the universe,
Mm-hmm.
and I got and somebody pulled off, or I pulled off, so we could talk about that. Anyway,
Yeah.
it got to a point where my mom said, "You're not gonna make it if I don't get you out of here." So when I was 16,
Mm-hmm.
she sent me to Texas,
Got it.
and I ended up living with the family who ultimately became my law partner, the firm that I just left.
Oh wow.
And so But David and I have known each other since junior high or elementary school. Actually, we met in
Yeah.
elementary school. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a Texan man through and through. But I've lived
Yeah.
in Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio.
And see, and you talked about being able to go in a room and connect with people. That's a gift. That's
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of my gifts as well. One of my God-given gifts, to connect with people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you hear about situations, and maybe in Milwaukee that was one of those situations, but you typically hear about young kids that move around a lot with that kind of being a problem, and they not being able to really make friends because
Yeah.
they're always the new kid, and you hear about the negativity a lot with
Yeah.
that. But you actually have a different situation where it was a positive thing, allowing you to kind of go and meet a lot of people.
Yeah, maybe I reframed it
Yeah.
as positive, but I think that's part of life too, man. Is
Yeah.
if you embrace the situations, whether they're good or bad, friendly or hostile, you find a way to turn those into opportunities
Yeah.
and look at them through a lens of what did I really learn from this. And obviously, none of that comes as a natural trait.
Right.
You just you kind of figure that out over the long run. That if you're gonna be faced with positive and negative, you might as well turn both of them into a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
And that's I think that's what I did.
Yeah. And you mentioned your former partner David,
Yeah,
the homie. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah. So tell me about how you said y'all met in elementary.
Yeah,
Talk about how y'all got started. I guess both in the business, or how y'all came together with the business.
yeah. So
If you,
my first career or careers were all sales related. So
Mhm.
I was doing even when I was at TSU, for instance, because like for instance, like here's what happened. I moved to Milwaukee,
Mhm.
uh, and then got in trouble in Milwaukee. My mom sent me to Texas. I lived with the Gotsies for I don't know a year or something like that. As soon as she could relocate, she relocates to Ann Arbor, Michigan,
Okay.
and so it was I guess about a year. So I started halfway through my junior year in high school up in Ann Arbor,
Okay.
and then graduated from high school in Ann Arbor. I graduated from high school on. Well, let's go back. So what did I do for my senior trip?
Yeah.
I went to TSU. So all the cats I was friends with were a year or two classes ahead of me. So David was a class ahead of me, and all my other friends were a year or two ahead of me.
Yeah.
So I went down and saw them at TSU as a high school student.
Got it.
So here I am on campus at a HBCU.
Man, I know
And
that was a time.
you could call it that, yeah. But I mean, let me just I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the environment, all that. And so when I graduated from high school, it was all of probably 2 days, 3 days before I was on train on my way from Ann Arbor down to Texas.
Yeah.
And then I of course got into TSU and ended up there and then walked on the track team,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. So, but Dave and I we'd always had a really good friendship. We just ended up in business through really kind of I guess it was fortuitous or something. I was always, I think for the most part, like I was making six figures, man, when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I remember my first couple of jobs. I made $39,000 when I was 19, and then when I went to work for a couple of guys, they had some opportunity. I actually kind of gave them the idea to let me go into sales, and I made
Yeah.
75 grand that year.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm 21, 22, making 70K. And so I was making more than a lot of my friends, right?
Right.
Okay, so, and by the way, I'd left school. My GPA, as I tell people, was the same as my blood alcohol level for a number of years. And so that really didn't work out very well. And so I came home and started working. Home was Austin.
Yeah.
And so by that time my mom moved out. Anyway, 75 wasn't going to do it for me. And so I went and changed jobs again and got to the point where I think when I was 23, I broke into six figures. So I made
Yeah.
100, 120. I think I made 154 one.
Yeah.
And so, but I realized when I started this business, one of the conversations people got to have with themselves
Mm-hmm.
is you got to have a real target. And you have to be painfully honest with yourself about where it is that you really want to be.
Yeah.
Because despite what people would tell me, well, you're making a lot of money. And I really was making a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah.
I was I lived in a gated community. I had a BMW. I had an Acura RL. I had a baller crib for those that I had a big screen TV, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But I knew I was going to cap out at probably 225, 250
In that situation.
in
Yeah.
that situation. And I
Okay.
knew that I was going to be a miserable 50, 60, 70-year-old. Like nobody would want to be around me.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like talking to David one time, and he had recently graduated from law school, took the bar exam, and he was a former adjuster. And anyway, we put a plan together
Yeah.
and said, you go get cases because he knew that I knew how to market.
Mhm.
Like I can go out there and figure out a way to bring in business. That's what I'd spent my career doing.
Yeah.
And he knew how to process them. So it was just a natural fit.
Yeah.
So I ended up applying for law school, got into Texas Southern and Texas Wesleyan, which is now Fort Worth. In
Right.
Fort Worth is Texas A&M School
Mhm.
of Law, and went there because David and his family were here, and we started the practice. And so the little girls in that commercial is his daughter and mine,
Yeah.
and they did that when they were 7 years old, and they're both 25 now. So we had a nice run.
Right.
We had a really good run. It was really productive, made us both a lot of money.
Mhm.
Got us, brand recognition, name recognition, not
Yeah.
just in Texas, but throughout a large part of the U.S. And I think all
Absolutely.
that stuff was real cool. I can go do a CLE right now, talk to other lawyers throughout the country and tell them who I am, and they go,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I've heard of you,"
Right.
that kind of thing. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if people know that, how much of an impact we made.
Yeah.
But now, time to climb another mountain.
Yeah. And this will be my last question on that. But whose idea or how did that idea come together for one, I just got hit.com
Yeah.
and the commercial? And because that was my background is marketing.
Sure.
So as a marketing guy, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. That's very memorable. And, people know that. Like, some of the
Sure.
other attorney commercials are around, definitely around
Sure.
Texas. We
Yeah.
have some of the, most iconic ones that people just know. Even if they don't know the people, they know the commercials.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in the office on Main Street, 2201 Main. At the time, it was probably 2:30 in the morning. The club next to us, there's a club right next to the building we were in right there.
Yeah.
And the club was getting out. I'm pecking away at the keyboard, and I hear an accident happen outside. I said, "Oh, somebody." And so I was like, so I go to GoDaddy and look up the domain.
Yeah.
You just got hit. I just got hit. Somebody got hit.
Mhm.
So I ended up with I just got hit. And then I started buying the phone numbers and things like that.
Yeah.
And ended up getting 877. I got hit, and then negotiated a deal for the use of that in a world where you had a lot of people using it already, but
Mhm.
not everybody had a trademark.
You're right.
And so we worked through that. I negotiated some things with some people,
Yeah.
some of which is still in place, some of which isn't.
Yeah.
But it became an iconic brand. And the way I like, to think about it is because you're a marketing guy, you want a certain amount of stickiness. Like when you say something and
Yeah.
it's not obvious what a Google is. We know what Google is now because
Mhm.
we've been told, and we know what a Xerox is because we've been told, and we know what Coke is. But you wouldn't know what it is. But when
Right.
you said that phrase, I just got hit, it's actually what you say at the scene of the accident.
Absolutely.
And it became that sort of the utterance, like the words, the phrases that people use.
Right.
And so I think it was an automatic trigger, and
Yeah.
it worked because of that.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And people knew what it was. Like you didn't have to
Yeah.
do too much explaining.
Yeah.
And people, even if people didn't remember the phone number, they remembered the website.
Yep.
And this is a time when probably before websites are even like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like y'all were pretty early on.
Especially
I feel
in
like
law. Yeah, especially in law. Like it wasn't a lot of people doing. Like I had a vision for being something that people, because as you know, man, the first step in a business is awareness.
Yeah.
And my belief system is that nobody can buy from you if they're not aware that you exist.
Absolutely.
And so the first step is awareness. And then from there you go to once they know I'm around, I want them to consider
Mhm.
my brand. And so if I can kind of move them down the funnel from you're aware of me to now you consider me. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of jumping straight to the third, which is being chose.
Right.
And that element is a little bit tougher to achieve because it requires some other things, factors like trust.
Mhm.
And expertise, and you have to have social proof and all these other things that are sort of part of that. So I think a lot of young businesses make the mistake of not having the staying power
Yeah.
to make it, directly to the point where people consider you.
Yeah.
And that's where you can start taking a little bit of market share. And if you make it through that phase, they go from considering you to choosing you,
Mm-hmm.
and then from choosing you to promoting, but then you've got to, that's where you really have to like
Yeah.
reaffirm their decision in the
Yeah.
process. Like, okay, now you hired me. The brand is a promise. What promises is the brand going to fulfill? And
Yeah.
if you fulfill the promise, then they promote.
Absolutely.
And so I was really focused on all those elements, making sure that we became something that people not only believed in, but that they would tell other people they needed to believe in it too.
Yeah.
Because that made my cost of acquisition one of the lowest in the country.
Right.
True story, man, is I've been around the country in terms of legal. I've been around the country meeting with law firms and investors and things like that in this industry
Mhm.
pretty much for the last decade or two.
Yeah.
And I've had people say, well, what's your cost of acquisition? And when I tell them what it is,
They don't
if I
believe
want
it.
to share, they say, no, it's not. And I go, okay, that's fine. And I've had some other people, like I had one guy, he wrote a book on this stuff. And I'm talking to him about, I don't remember how it happened. We end up standing next to each other at a conference.
Yeah.
And he's over there telling this guy all. He looks at me and starts telling me why I need to do it his way. And I look at him and say, oh, cool. I don't do it that way. He said, if you don't do it that way, how do you do it?
Yeah.
And I said, and I explained to him what I did. And he was like, there's no way that's true. And I said, okay, that's fine. Like,
You ain't gotta believe
you
me.
ain't got to believe me. So there's another guy who's a vendor that represents a lot of the different law firms throughout the country sitting over there. And this guy who I'm talking to says, no, that's not true. He looks over at that guy and he goes, who is this guy? And he goes, is that true? And the guy's just sitting there, just looks up at him and goes, it's true. And then the guy says, why don't I know who you are?
Right.
And I said, probably because I ain't trying to, that's not really what I'm looking for, right?
Right.
And that's the other thing. It's like I didn't go into this, as you know, like trying to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
I went into this trying to get paid.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference.
Right. Definitely.
You know, and then staying power, sustaining, fame is one of those things where you've got this element of relevance. There's got to be a component of it for it to actually continue versus having sort of financial content, like the ability to continue to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at different metrics.
Yeah, and that's what's going on, and with a lot of young people right now, and even with social media, like people are looking to be famous or to be popular, and not necessarily being able to equate that to making money. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like it's a lot of famous broke people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not willing to put the work in and be consistent about the work.
Yeah, and I almost think that the social media construct, it's designed that way because it's all about, as you know, time on site, dial, mile, daily users, or daily average users, monthly average users.
Yeah, because we're thinking that we're using the social media, and the social media is really using us.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and they're if they're not selling your data, then they're definitely selling your eyeballs. Okay, we got this person on social media for this many hours, and we can show that you've been on Instagram, you've been on Facebook, you've been on Twitter, whatever else, TikTok, for this long, and so that's what they're selling and making money off of everybody.
It's an interesting concept, and I feel like if you don't dig in and learn how all of it works, you can't use it appropriately.
Exactly.
Like you can't really deploy that type of, because it can give you a strategic advantage if you really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there's so many, like the 1% or the 2% of people that actually get traction on there. They put them out there, but they never show what's really happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that I talk to, most of the people that I talk to feel like it's a game of marketing in general is just a game of put something out there. And if it doesn't work, put something else out there. If it doesn't work, put something else out there and just keep doing that. They don't realize how much science goes into it.
Yeah, there's a strategy to it.
And so I've always focused on that. Like I actually sat down and did the work to figure out what's going through the mind of somebody that gets into a car accident.
Yeah.
What's going through the mind of somebody that got hit by a truck?
Mm-hmm.
And what are their pain points? Why is it my product or service should feel like a natural answer
Yeah.
or a solution to whatever emotion they're feeling?
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, okay, are you really trying to resolve a need, or are you trying to answer an emotion? And quite often you got to distinguish,
Yeah.
so that
And
there's science to it.
yeah, and there's a book by Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Selling, one of my favorite books, and it talks about how a lot of people try to sell you on the features when they should be selling you on the benefits. So if I was trying to sell you a car, I need to know that, okay, you got kids, you have young kids, okay, so I need to try and sell you the car that's good on gas mileage when you're dropping your kids off at their different activities. I need
Yeah.
to sell you the car that's safe. I don't need to be trying to sell you a two-seater. You know what I mean? Because if I'm trying to sell you a two-seater that go 150 miles an hour,
Yeah.
then I wasn't paying attention to what the conversation was. I'm trying to sell you on the features and not on the benefits and how it benefits you.
You make an interesting point, and now that I know we're gonna nerd out, I'm a nerd out with you. So what I learned early on, because one of my first careers, first call it, and I'll call it job, was selling copiers.
Yeah.
And before that, I was selling printers. But when I went and made $100,000, more than $100,000 a year, I was selling copiers.
Yeah.
And the guy that I worked for was a sales machine, and he taught me a lot. But I think probably one of the biggest things I learned during that period of time was you don't know everything you know so that you can talk. You know everything that you know so that you can listen.
Absolutely.
And so, like the best salespeople are the people that ask the types of questions that break down the objections in the presentation. And so, I learned early on that you have to ask the type of questions of the, say, car buyer to say, um, like we would do crazy stuff. Like, for instance, when I walked into somebody's office and I was going to sell them a copier, first thing I had to do was look sharp, smell good, all that
Yeah.
to get by the gatekeepers.
Right.
But, I would do things like if somebody had a Minolta copier, it's once I got the lady behind the desk to talk to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't go and say, "Are you guys looking for a new copier?" Because that's an immediate, like her guard would go. Right?
Yeah.
And so I would kind of pick a weapon of choice in those situations, bro. Like I would say, "Oh, I see you got the Minolta back there. Those machines never jam. They never break."
And then they'll say,
And then she said,
"Oh, yes, they do."
"Oh, that thing jams all the time." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. What do you mean it jams all the time?" And now she's talking to me about how the machine jams. So there was just different ways that I feel like, a lot of times today, we don't take the time to understand the game
Yeah.
inside the game and understand, like, and so you think you're the game. And then maybe that social media makes you feel like you're the game.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is you're not. There's a game back there. In every single industry, there's a game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know the game, it's because you're a piece being moved around by somebody that does.
Yeah.
If you know the game, then you have an opportunity to actually be the person controlling it.
Yeah.
And so, but the shortcut world we're in right now, who's got time to learn the game?
Yeah.
And school's definitely not going to teach you.
No,
You're not going to go to college to get that.
Yeah, those are things you have to definitely learn on your own. And, I'm really big on networking,
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a book by Bob Bodine, The Power of Who. Everybody in life that you need to know in order to be successful.
Yeah.
And it talks about the circle of influence. And so a lot of times when people get ready to go try to sell something or try a new business, start a new business, they go to all the people that they don't know as opposed to going around to the people that they do know.
Good point.
So, for instance, how this interview was set up, right? You've known me for a number of years.
Yeah.
Your PR firm has known me for a lot of years as well.
Yeah.
So they reached out to me, said, "Yo, let's make this happen."
Yeah.
Of course, I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? As opposed to if they would have sent me somebody that I had never heard of, and same with you.
Yeah.
If they had presented an opportunity to do some media with somebody you had never heard of,
Yeah.
it may have been you know what, I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
But based off our relationship, we know we both been consistent in business for a number of years, and so we know we're gonna have a good conversation. And then now, with your new brand, you're co-sign, I'm
Yeah,
co-signing
for
it,
sure.
and it allows things to grow at an exponential level, as opposed to just going to Joe Blow and saying, okay, I have this new business, why don't you try it?
Yeah,
Like, no, when people try a new restaurant, they typically get um, told by somebody that they know, like, hey, I went to this new restaurant, it's
yep,
the place to go.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that too, because I've seen cats that they call everybody that they work with bro or big bro or unc, some stuff like that. And there's really just sort of like, hey, mentor me. And there's a lane though. And the lane is one of those things where, when you get to a certain, say, level, there's got to be an element of like staying in the lane for a while to figure out if that's really where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start thinking about like where your network actually has the most leverage,
Yeah.
most of the time it's when you're in your lane, and when somebody actually because I don't think a lot of people understand this is a capitalistic society. And I'll tell people up front, like, I'm a capitalist. I'm assuming you are too. Like when I'm doing business with people, I'm like, you got capitalistic traits because we can talk. And if they like, well, I'm like, well, okay, this may not make for a good long-term relationship
Yeah.
because I like to pay for something that I really like, and I want the product to be perfect, as close to it as it can possibly be. I'm not gonna nickel and dime you on price and none of that kind of stuff. I just want to see it
Yeah.
work the way I want it to work. And so, the capitalists tend to hang with capitalists. But what I find with a lot of people is they're trying so many things out at the same time that they don't give any one thing
A
enough of
chance.
their attention to
Yeah.
give, to really figure out that this is their lane. And so their network is a little bit too broad to really develop any type of real sense because look, I'll try any restaurant you throw at me, truck stop tacos and strip club wings, and I mean, whatever. We'll try it out. My wife and we've tried everything.
Yeah.
But I do have a favorite food. I do have certain things I really like, and those are the things we call them in a pinch.
Yeah.
So we're like any place that we put on our list, like in a pinch, we know we can go there and get exactly
Yeah.
what we want. And I think the same thing happens with good network
Mm-hmm.
is you have to develop a nice or a strong enough group of people. Occasionally you bring somebody else into the network. Like this is a new play for us. But your network, if the people within your network also are synergizing outside of it, the network has that kind of reach. What I found is the strongest networks have been around the longest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this every week we're changing where we're networking type model.
Right.
And so I think there's something to what you said, man, about
Yeah.
the network and that kind of the association.
Yeah,
Uh,
and another thing also that I think where people miss with the network, they sometimes they feel they kind of rush the process, right? Like people can tell when you're being genuine and when you're not being genuine, right?
yeah,
You know, like you can't meet somebody day one and think they finna do business with you on day two. Like
oh
you
yeah,
just met them, and then
yeah,
the other thing that I tell people is if you're gonna reach out to people and you're gonna really connect with people, like don't wait until you need them and then reach out. Like, you want to provide some kind of value first
yeah,
and gain that trust or gain that, you
yeah,
don't want to just be reaching out to people asking for favors or, I even take it back to the music industry, right? So, I ran clubs
yeah,
and different things like that. And, Park Ave was one of the biggest clubs around, 2,000 people all the time, DJ Chaotic,
yeah,
DJ Shutdown, they up
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
It would be an artist trying to get their music played, but they were only coming and talking to the DJs when it was time for a record to come out.
yeah.
Like that's not how you do it. Like you
Nah,
got to build that relationship. It might be an off night when ain't nobody in there, and now
yeah.
you can kind of talk to the DJ. But it's like you have to build those relationships when you don't need people, as opposed to just waiting till you need something and then calling them.
100%. And that's where I think the game is important. Like the game, not recognizing, honoring the rules of the game.
Mhm.
You just you'll never make it. And
Yeah.
and so I think people, sometimes if you go in and you think you're bigger than the game, Jordan has talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan
Hmm.
has said that, look, he had to earn that.
Yeah.
And then he became the game, right? For obvious reasons. But I feel like there's an element these days, like people literally want to skip a step,
Yeah.
because it's a lot easier, to your point.
Yeah, it's like what Jordan says a lot of times with these, the younger athletes, right? Jordan and even a Tom Brady, they talk about when you win, then the brand deals and everything else comes along with it. Like, why are you trying to go to the brand first and do all of this stuff first? If you just win and do what you're supposed to do, everything else will come to you.
You think that's the managers telling them?
I
'Cause
mean,
sometimes, man, I'm like, who's do that?
yeah, I
Like,
and I don't necessarily think it's always the managers telling them to do that. I think it could be a little bit of both. Like they come in with it because I worked with athletes before also, so it could be that not only they have bad advice, but sometimes they have too many yes men, and so they may come with an idea and say, "Hey, I want to do this," and somebody's telling them like, "Yeah, you can do that," and
yeah,
it's like, "Nah." Like for instance, I'm not a Cowboy fan; I'm an Eagles fan, but obviously living in Dallas, I've seen where, okay, it's the preseason, somebody score a touchdown. They may not even make the team, but they scored a touchdown, and the next week they hosting a party.
mm,
Like you might want to lock in and make sure you make the team first, because
yeah,
if you make the team, you'll get plenty endorsement deals. You don't have
yeah,
to force it and try and the moment you do one little thing, now you're trying to, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's like it's a process to it. It's not going to come overnight, and that consistency is part of it. I try to be consistent as possible, and kind of like what you talked about with when you want something and you don't mind paying a premium price for it, but you want it consistent, right?
yeah,
So sometimes if you go to a brand and it's something that's not consistent, then you never know what you're gonna get, and
yeah.
so that can be a problem with different brands, whether that's food or product or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if these days people really understand how important that is for longevity of a brand and the standard. Like I'm a big believer that. Well, I want to circle back to what you say. The guy scores a touchdown. The next week he's throwing a party. There's sometimes I think this desire to have the sort of the accolades and the feelings that come along with that type of celebration or whatever it is you're doing, that I don't think people understand the you at 50 or the you at 60 is not really going to say I'm glad you did that. And so you have to be like in touch with the future you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the decisions that I think these guys make, because let's face it, you can make a lot of money in the NFL. You really can. And but if you those guys that have a longer career tend to have better lifestyles
Hmm.
after they stop playing.
Yeah.
And if you took a 10-year career and you say a guy made $4 million over 10 years, that's $40 million. But if you take $40 million over the remaining 30, 40 years that he's living, it's $1 million a year,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, wait a minute. So you make $40 million in 10, and now you got to live off $1 million for 40.
Yeah.
And so, it's simple. Like for me, it's simple math. I sometimes wonder who's talking to him, because if you put $1 million in the bank and you got 8% interest off it each year, you made 80 grand. So if you had 10 million in the bank and you made 8% off of it, you made 800 grand.
Yeah.
And 800 grand after taxes, take 30% off of that. So that's 240,000. So you're gonna basically have $560,000 a year to live off of. Divide that by 12. Who can't live off of 60 grand a month? But these cats want to live off of 100 grand a month or
Yeah.
200 grand. And so I'm like, it's regretful
And
that
not
you don't.
account for the agent fees, the
Yeah,
taxes, everything else.
exactly. Yeah, Uncle
Yeah.
Sam,
Hmm.
you don't have people in your life that that are long term kind
Yeah.
of view. There's a guy, and I won't tell too much because some of this is personal, but there's a guy who here in Dallas sold a building for a lot of money,
Yeah.
and he could have taken all the money up front, but instead he wanted payments.
If you were talking to a younger version of yourself,
Yeah.
now that you had these different life experiences, whether that's 16-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old, what's the advice that you would give a younger version of yourself?
Changed the way I think. Like I remember when I was doing some like work for this cat, gardening work, and I would do like any type of odd job that somebody had at their house or whatever. And I, and I remember this guy coming over to me and he said, "So tell me, man, how much do you want to make?" And I said, "I want to make $160,000 a year." "Why'd you come up with that number?" "Sounds like a lot. I've seen people make six figures. I heard I want to make six figures." And I got it like a rake in my hand or something. He takes the rake out of my hand, leans it up against the fence. He says, "No, no, no." He goes, "You want to be in the top 0.5% of earners in the world." And he said, "Right now," I don't remember what year it was, but I think he said, "Right now, that's $500,000 a year or more.
Yeah.
Will put you in the top 0.5%." Well, the thing that I learned with that was never mind the dollar amount. It didn't give me an idea. It wasn't an idea. It was a change in the way that I created ideas. You know, I think we would refer to that as a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
So if I was talking to a younger version of me, to the extent that I could get me to sit down and pay attention long enough, I would say, don't change your thinking, change the way you think. Change the machinery up there so that you actually create thought in a more productive way. That would be one of the things I would say.
Yeah.
And that's not easy because you got to have tools for it, but there's mental models and things, you know, that people use in order to get to those points now that I understand more than I did then. And I feel like if I had done a lot of that sooner, although I'm not one of these people to have regrets about where I am, because I would, you know.
Yeah, you wouldn't be you.
It wouldn't be me. It happened
one thing
organically.
changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but definitely that would be. There's another one that I think is pretty important, and that is the understanding that no is a complete sentence, and like N-O period, and so
It don't need no reasoning why.
Yeah,
it's
you
not.
know, and so I'm like, you know, when you get to a certain point in your sort of development where everything that you're doing is not contributing to a long term, but you have this problem saying no to things that come along that aren't a fit, right? And so you take yourself out of your season, and it would, if I could talk to myself back then, I would say, man, just be okay with that, man. Because what I realized is that most of the people, I think it's Dr. Seuss, which is crazy because who thought that you and I would be quoting, I'd be quoting Dr. Seuss on your podcast. But I think Dr. Seuss says, be who you are because, you know, no matter what, because the people that mind won't matter and the people that matter won't mind. And so when you say no to somebody, no, I'm not going to, or no, I'm not going to do that, or no, I'm not going to start that company. No, I'm not going to follow that process. You're actually expressing some of your uniqueness, right? And the most valuable thing that you have, whether you know it or not, is your you, right? And it's priceless if you follow it. But if you spend your time trying to model your identity after other people, pleasing other people, you lose your you. And so you find, you know, and so now I'm in this sort of, like, I ain't trying to be nobody but me.
Yeah.
And so if somebody tells me something, if I can't say absolutely yes, like when you invited me here, I'm like, that's an absolute yes for me.
Yeah.
But had I wobbled a little bit,
then it would have been enough.
It's probably a no.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You know, it's okay because the people that respect you, what you find is when you tell them no, they actually respect that. And they stick around. The people that disappear, you know, you probably didn't need them anyway.
Yeah, and that brought up a couple things hearing you speak. And sometimes being able to say no is like you can always change your mind to yes later on.
Sure.
But just being able to say no, because you know a lot of people overcommit themselves because they're trying to say yes to everything and stretching themselves too thin.
Yeah.
You can always say no and then come back and say, you know what? what, and maybe that opportunity is there, maybe it's not. But you have to be comfortable telling people no and not feeling like you have to explain yourself when you say no.
Yeah.
No, man, I can't do it because
Yeah.
no, just no, I'm not going. No, I can't commit. Whatever it is, you
Yeah.
have to be okay with saying no.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I remember years ago standing in line at a grocery store back when I think it was Sports Illustrated used to feature athletes, high school athletes on the first, like second or third page.
Yeah.
And this was many, many years ago. Anyway, it was an athlete that they featured. And at the time she was state champion, I want to say, in high school in the 100, the 200, anchored the 4x2, anchored the 4x4. She was a freshman, California. I said, this woman's going to go to the Olympics. She's going to get nothing but gold. Like, I remember reading that and being like, oh, hell no. You're a freshman in California, Florida, Texas, the fastest states in the country.
Right.
And you already doing that. Well, she didn't. She didn't go get all gold. I'm talking about Allison Felix. She did great, but it wasn't until a certain point in time in her life that she actually got one or two that she'd really wanted.
Yeah.
And I think it was Lewis that went up to her at the end and interviewed.
Yeah.
And he said, what was it about? Like, you finally got it. What changed? And I feel like I remember her answer distinctly. She said, I got selfish. And that really stuck with me, man, because that's her gold, right? That's not other people's gold. And if she had spent her time saying yes to other people, and what they wanted her to do and the things that they wanted to see out of her and all that kind of stuff,
it wouldn't go
that
work.
was her way. It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
But here she is now with the gold. And my thought is, I suspect that a lot of people that asked her before, where she said no, asking twice as hard now. So even though she said no, she got the gold. They coming back, asking for her time or whatever.
Yeah.
Her endorsement now. So, yeah, man, I think people, one of the things I try to get across to people is that this journey, no matter how much, so you could be, if like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I think is a great book, everybody should read.
Yeah.
But you have a role as a son and a role as a dad and a role as a brother, a role as a sister, a role as a boss, a role as this, whatever. And all those are important. But you can never lose sight of the fact that your role as a child of the Creator, whatever it is, whoever it is and whatever it is you believe created you, that there'll be a point in time in your life where you're going to look back at what you achieved, call it your final 5 minutes. And hopefully you have the cognitive ability, you're aware, you got the mental acuity, to go, let me look back at this. Let me replay this.
Yeah.
That's only going to be you dealing with that, man. It ain't going to be nobody else dealing with the product that you put out there, your body of work. And so I'm like, it's great to impress other people. It's great to bring other people along for the ride. It's great to be unselfish and care for people and take care of them.
Yeah.
But there has to be an element of personal satisfaction and personal goals and things like that, like built into your program, because you are going to be the one that has to grapple with that. And I tell people, like, I want to burn the candle all the way down to that like black crap in the bottom where you put the Bic in there, you can't light it. Yeah. It's gone. And you really should hope that you burn all of that out of you. Yeah. Throughout. If you spend your time doing it for other people, man, that wick's gonna be there still. Yeah. You're still gonna be, and you're gonna be like, man, I didn't exhaust all of the potential.
Yeah, it's nothing like meeting older people with regret. And that was one of the things that early on when I was young, that was one of the things that I said that that's not gonna be me. I never want to be somebody that lived with regret. I coulda, shoulda, woulda. Maybe I tried this and it didn't work, or I pivoted because. When I was on my way to this, I found something that worked a little bit better for me.
Yeah.
But that's why you kind of see me move about the rooms the way that I do, is because, no, I'm not going to live with any regrets. I'm not going to be, one of them, how you see the older people, they'll tell you everything they could have done. They'll never tell you what they actually did. They just tell you all the things they could have did.
Yeah, right. I never thought about it there. tell you what they could have done. You know, the whole concept of regret, when I ended up breaking it down, I realized that the trade-off is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's Jim Rohn, ROHN, that said that there's two major pains in life. One is the pain of discipline. The other is the pain of regret. And discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs. And so, but you go through life, man, in these situations, choosing the easy path, the non-disciplined path. And because at the time, that's the most convenient. But in the end, what happens is that most convenient path doesn't result in any type of benefit.
Mm-mm.
There's no ROI
Right.
on the easy path,
Yeah.
easy road. And so you end up with regret. And if you had chose discipline, which, let's face it, is harder in that moment,
Yeah.
right? It's the most uncomfortable of the two forks in the road. The discipline fork is always the most uncomfortable and painful,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also the most beneficial. And I have a feeling that that's why when I see, because I didn't understand for a long time why champions, and it doesn't matter the sport.
Yeah.
When you watch somebody climb the mountain and get the championship, despite all the odds and all the opposition and the hostile environment and the away games and all that kind of stuff, they cry. They clutch the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
The confetti's coming down. They cry. And I'm watching some of the toughest men and women on earth cry when they win. And it's occurred to me recently that I think what that is about is the unwavering belief that the discipline is going to pay off.
That it's worth it.
That
That it's
all the
worth
pain,
it.
all the time, because they never let their mood decide if they were going to go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
They never let their circumstances decide if they were going to change their standards. And they always had this belief that that was going to pay off one day. And when it does, it's probably like a rapture. You know, they're like, oh man, like this is legit. This is what it's all about. And it's unfortunate that most people won't, and I mean this, man, but it's sad, but it's true. Most people won't ever know what it's like to give 100%. They'll go their entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't be until they have a cancer diagnosis or somebody tries to take their life or they're trying to, again, you know, any type of catastrophic event that they're trying to.
And that's when they'll wake up.
And that's when they'll say, oh, this is what 100% looks like.
Yeah.
But the 100% could have happened a lot earlier. But for whatever reason, man, we're just not wired for that. We're wired to see. Sometimes I wonder if whoever created us is looking, going, why you keep hitting your head against this same wall, man?
Mm.
Like, you realize that, like, you can have so much more. I gave you unlimited potential, but you're choosing to not let your effort and your potential meet face to face. You're choosing for those two things to be in two different zip codes.
Yeah, never to meet.
And so, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's wild.
And I just got a couple of, I want to be respectful of your time, so I just got a couple of more things to go through. So, you know, I'm a believer, so to whom much is given, much is required.
Sure.
And I know you do a lot of community work, and you know, obviously you're successful, you go make the money, but I know that you're also going to put that community work in, and I come from a background of that. My mom used to run a Boys and Girls Club. Then she worked in housing. She worked for Commerce ISD. I'm originally from Greenville.
Okay.
My dad, he worked at Raytheon, was a pastor, was on the school board.
Oh, wow.
My grandmother on my dad's side used to run a Salvation Army. That's where, you know, before I was old enough to go to school, I would hang with her at the Salvation Army.
Okay.
So, like, giving back is in my blood. So, love to do community work. I love the work that you've been doing in the community also. And then I'll tell you this one last thing. Like, My son just graduated from Stanford, and so he played football out there.
Congratulations, man.
But I always tell him, no matter where you are, whether you stay in California, he's back in Houston now working. But I'm like, no matter where you go, you have to be a part of that community, and you have to give back. I'm not from Dallas originally, but Dallas is home, and
Yeah.
I've been here since UNT and everything like that. And so, if I'm gonna be in Dallas, I have to give back. So, every year we do things on Thanksgiving with the radio station. We do things,
Yeah.
just did some last week with Foot Locker for Christmas. But talk about the importance of community work, of giving back, and where that comes from in your background.
Well, I think it's more than, I get that question a lot, as you can imagine. And there's probably an element of me that doesn't even feel like I'm giving, because karma, if you believe in that, and it is giving, right? It is, but the only organ in the body that actually gives in equal amounts as it receives is the heart. It's interesting, right? And that people would view the heart, that if you had to symbolize giving or karma, say the heart, right? You give them with, but it's actually a form of receiving to give. And if you go into it looking to get back,
Never go ahead.
it'll never work, right? But I've just, man, I've been so fortunate that this, whatever the universe has conspired to help, like nothing, I've had all kinds of crazy situations, dealing with some to this day, personal, family, professional challenges, things like that. But I've continued to give throughout all of that. And it's always found, I suspect, just because I breathed air on this side of the dirt this morning, it's always found its way back to me. And I feel like sometimes as Black men, we cling to what we earn. We cling to the check, and we don't want to put that dollar in at work, or that hug to work, or that time commitment to work in our community, because we fear that we may not get it back.
Yeah.
And I think so. When you ask me the question, for me, it's not even debatable, man, on whether or not I know I'm getting it. So I'm receiving as I'm giving. The other thing is, I think there's an element of, and it's an, what do they call it, adage or whatever. It sounds cliche, but don't forget where you come from.
Yeah.
And my relationship with pain and heartbreak and misfortune, hardship, I'm affiliated with it. I understand it. And so my ability to like recall the way it feels to eat a pepper sandwich, like literally put, a pack of pepper on the bread. We had bread, fortunately, but have that as a sandwich. Like, I recall that. Or when a constable shows up at your house and serves you documents, the sinking feeling you get in your stomach.
Yeah.
Or when you have, something that would destroy an entire week or a month, you have two of those events happen in the same day. And so I feel a sense of responsibility on this blue ball floating through space to answer that call for people and do it, because I remember how I felt. Like, I talked to a woman today, and after I spoke with her, she started crying, and she was like, I just feel so good that somebody's going to take care of me. And that's my job, so, and I don't want nothing out of that, but I just think we've got to get ourselves more in alignment with our purpose here. And so, yeah, it's easy for me to give, man. I mean, I think you probably know, but I bought a house and gave it away.
Yeah.
With some homies, and I was like, and look, the crazy thing, it was no documentation. There was no contracts. It was just agreement. Sitting at a table, me and the homies were like, let's buy a house. So like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then we figured out how to do it, and we pulled it off.
Yeah.
And I never thought twice about it. how much money I would spend. Why?
Right.
Why, man? Like it,
When you're blessed, you're blessed, and when you can be a blessing to other people, that makes you even
yeah,
more blessed, right?
it's
As
it.
they say, it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Correct. And back to the network discussion we had earlier, my homies, the cats I did it with, I don't think they thought twice about it either.
Mm-mm.
They just did it,
Yeah,
and so it's like that's your network.
yeah,
People that are actually from the same tribe, cut from the same cloth.
yeah,
They ain't gonna look at it any different.
yeah. And it's we have a responsibility as we elevate to send the elevator back down. Also,
Isn't that the truth? I love
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like you said, so many people want to get the money and then go run and hide, so to speak. But it's like you have something, and it's different ways to give back, right? It doesn't always have to be financial.
it doesn't.
Sometimes it can just be your time.
That's it.
Sometimes it can be your knowledge,
Yep.
pouring into that teenager, that college student, or whatever it is, giving
Yeah.
some of that knowledge back. We have to push the elevator back down for the next generation.
Yeah, and I don't think we're taught that. I don't think that that's something that we're not, and probably a lot of it is because you haven't seen, like you got certain cats out there, they've seen their grandfather make it
Yeah,
and their dad make it. And
yeah,
they go, and they've seen their grandfather fall, get back up. They've seen their dad fall, get back up.
yeah,
I never even knew my dad, right? So there was no role models there for me to go, oh, that's how it's done. That's how you get back up.
yeah,
And so I feel like, probably the first thought is if you can get it, keep it.
yeah,
Hold on to it. I haven't found that to be true, man.
yeah.
I found if you can get it, share something.
Yeah.
Circulate it.
And then, the last thing that I want to touch on is legacy. Legacy is extremely important. You talked about how, it's a Bible verse that says, it's better to have a great name than riches. So, talk about the legacy of Justin Martin.
Probably reputation is one of the biggest things for me. Being a person who, when his name is spoken, the reputation is not something that's questioned. It's solid. And that for me is important. I don't know what'll be said at my funeral, what people will talk about, what they call that, your eulogy.
Yeah,
But he did what he said he's gonna do, and he stood his ground when the moments came. And at the same time, I think that I have right now, I've done enough that my focus has shifted a lot, Desi, to like I want to help other people get it, and I feel that a responsibility to help other people. This is not yes, it's about my wife and my children, my family and all that kind of stuff. But I want some other people to get it too, because I think that for my legacy, you're only as good as the good that you give. And if I'm able to teach some other people to do what I do and let them go make it too. And don't get me wrong, I'll invest in some of those people. And if they turn around and become immensely successful,
yeah.
I'd like to get a check. I just send it to me in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But right, yeah, I mean, I feel like there's something to being able to watch somebody get themselves out of
Yeah,
and get their mama out, get their children out. My promise to my children was
yeah,
I've been able to do that.
yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I made decisions the other way.
Right.
Teaching somebody else to do that, I'm able to. I take care of my mom right now,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't make the decisions I made. I was going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to show somebody how to make those decisions and follow through.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I'm not into touching thousands and hundreds and being world famous. I'm good with just a small group,
Right.
of people. Yeah, that's
And thank you so much for joining me today on the Dessie Show. Before you get out of here, just touch on, I don't want to have you here and not touch on your new brand and what you have going on, and also let people know how they can reach you and utilize your services and everything.
So I've started a new law firm, Texas law firm, in order to provide people the level of service and care that I think our community is entitled to. And I think it's an industry that has fallen short all the way around. There's very few lawyers situated like me that don't make millions. They do. And and so, but they're doing it off the backs of people who are going through a lot of suffering. So there's a lot of profit that's happening off of pain. And my view is that we can do that in a way that the clients are happy, that they're satisfied,
Yeah.
with everything. And so when you read some of the reviews of law firms, this is not a dig at them. It's just it's sort of how I'm rewiring my practice. I want to exist on a higher level and a more elite level where we can actually. Uh, I don't believe that you have to compromise the satisfaction that people have in order to do high volume.
Yeah.
Apple does high volume all the time, and people buy iPhones that camp out in front of the store
Right.
to buy an iPhone when a new phone comes out. I think the volume firms, the people that built what I built, and I built $1 billion practice in right around 11 years. I think people that do this can do it and take care of people, especially our folks,
Yeah.
while they're doing it. And so that's what Get Justin is about, and that's what I'm bringing to the table.
And it sounds like what's I think they say like I shouldn't have to lose for you to win,
Yeah,
and vice versa.
that's it.
And it sounds like that's what you're kind of.
That's it.
Yeah.
And also, you shouldn't have to fight with your attorney to get your attorney to fight for you. Like when you hire somebody in our business, there's a lot of, sorry, you asked a question, but I'll just tell you, man, a lot of people don't really respect the fact that an injury like this really sets you back a lot more than just this little check that you put you. It takes more to get you back.
Yeah.
So my view is that, people really need to be focused on, the firms need to be focused on making sure, especially people in our community, where the dollar menus on every corner,
Yeah.
liquor stores, we've already got some I think anxiety that comes from the medical system, the healthcare system. We don't trust
We don't
that.
trust. Yeah.
We don't trust. And so we have a responsibility to educate our clients and get them across those finish lines to help them get a full recovery. So that's important to me. In terms of like what I'm doing in the community, I'll be the same Justin, the same guy that's talking to people, hugging people.
Yeah.
As I say, I hug the mamas and the babies, and I give the dads Obama dap, and that'll be it. But I'm gonna keep doing that, man, and keep loving on folks, because I just feel like that's the recipe that God put me on earth to make.
And then talk about what you have going this weekend.
So we've got this weekend it's called Get the Gift, but it's a collaboration we've got with Dick's Sporting Goods, and it's really to get these young people outside and get them motivated, get them active, get them moving. And the cool thing about Dick's, in the past we've given away bikes. Like I
remember you
sort
giving
of
away bikes
originated
all the
this
time.
idea of giving
Yeah.
away bikes, because I was like, we should do that.
Yeah.
And we did. And gave away thousands of bikes. But everybody doesn't want a bike. Some people want football equipment. Some people want basketball equipment. And so the relationship with Dick's is kind of cool, because we're able to go to the House of Sport and make sure that these kids get whatever it is they need.
Okay.
And sometimes these moms are like, hey, man, I need some cleats. I need some lacrosse equipment. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever it is the kids want, they get. So this is Get the Gift. And then we're also doing a single parent shopping spree.
Okay.
And that's all about single parents and recognizing them for the challenges that they face on a daily basis, making sure they know they're seen. We've got dads and moms this time around. And the goal is to just honor them with a nice day, let them know that they're appreciated for what is essentially the most unselfish job on earth.
Yeah.
Anytime you get up in the morning and before you even look in the mirror, you got to go take care of somebody else.
Absolutely.
So we're doing that.
Yeah.
This weekend. I'm looking forward to spending the time with the parents and the kids, and then after that, honestly, I'm gonna go celebrate Christmas with my family.
Hey man, nothing wrong with that.
Yes, sir.
That's the most important. If
Yes, sir.
you don't have anything else, you have your family.
That's right.
And tell the viewers your website, how to reach you on social media, how to see all that knowledge you've been dropping on social media as well.
Yeah, so I'm Justin the Lawyer, Justin the Lawyer. I had somebody do Justin D.A. Lawyer, while back, Justin T.H.E. Lawyer.
Right.
And then my website is getjustin.com, and you can just Google me.
Yeah.
You know, Justin in Texas, lawyer in Texas, and I'll pop up. But
Yeah.
getjustin.com and Justin the Lawyer on all social, TikTok, Instagram,
Yeah.
X, all YouTube. Yes, sir.
Man, thank you so much for joining me, man. This was truly special. You know, this is the longest we've sat down and really had a dope conversation, and I really appreciate that and where it went, man. So
appreciate you, brother.
Once again, this is the YouKnowDessie Show, and getjustin.com. Peace.
Peace. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.